Hello, friends. Hope you're doing well. Today, I want to tell you about some crazy things people did to bodies after people had died in India. So, first, let's start with this temple. It commemorates Saint Yaneshwar, who was a saint in the 1200s in Maharashtra in India. So, one day, the saint called his disciples, and they must have wondered, why is he calling us? Is he calling us to yell at us, or is he calling us for a dance party? But it was none of the above. He called them and he told them, hey, look, I'm going into the basement of this temple and I'm going to enter a state of samadhi or intense concentration. Samadhi or intense concentration is something you can't do nowadays because you constantly be interrupted with notifications from your phone. And the saint told them that they weren't to disturb him and he would be in this permanent state of meditation for eternity. So he went into the basement and he went into this intense concentration, and his disciples put a stone at the entrance to the basement. It is believed that even today, he is still there in that basement in deep meditation, and thousands of people throng the temple to get the good vibes from his meditation. Kind of like Wi Fi, but I don't think they'll cause cancer. So, that is one way people met the Holy Creator after their lives in ancient India. There are some other ways that I want to tell you about. So, let's start with the practice of Salekhana. So, this is a practice that was practiced by ancient Jains. In fact, Chandragupta Maurya, the first emperor of the Mauryan Empire, met this Jain monk called Bhadrabahu. And Bhadrabahu told him, hey man, look here, you have this body within you and it is impure. And so you have to dispense of it and then free up your spirit to achieve liberation. And if it were me, I would have said, okay, Bhadrabahu, I'll see you later, and gone and had a mango lassi. But Chandragupta Maurya was different. He renounced his empire, he went down to the south, and he stayed in a jungle, and he refused to eat till he died. So that's kind of a crazy way to say bye-bye to planet Earth. Here's another crazy way. This is from the Aghori sannyasis in the holy town of Varanasi in India. This order was founded by this chap called Baba Kinaram, and Baba Kinaram had a weird idea of how people should meet their end. So if you were an Aghori sannyasi, you sat on a mount, they covered you with mud, they made sure that you were in the lotus pose or the Padmasana, and then they kept piling your body with mud. And then at the place you sat, they put a lingam as it represented a connection between the two worlds. And you met your end in this way. Again, you entered a state of samadhi and you gave these intensely good vibes, and other people said things like clap, clap, and wah. But what if you were an Aghori sannyasi who said, hey, look, fellas, it's been great, but I'm not in the mood to meet my end here. I think I'm going to hang around for a while, and I would request that you please do not cover me with mud and place my body to the north. So I'll see you later. But this saint had spoken too soon, because the Aghori sannyasi community would break his spine, they would force him into a Padmasana, they would cover him in mud, and bye bye. So that is another crazy way people met their end in India. Now, I don't want to speak about the last rites, but I want to speak about something people did after someone had died. Now, if it's a normal average Joe, or in India, I would say an average Raju who died, then people would be like, yeah, plonk him on the wood, let's light the fire. After all, this is what the 10th book of the Rig Veda has told us to do, and this is the way people have been doing it since the first millennium BCE. But there are some special cases. Look, even today when famous people die, you don't just say, okay, oh my God, doctor, he's dead. Let's plonk him in the crematorium. No, you put his body in a hall so people can come and pay respects for many days. But in the ancient days, they didn't have air conditioning. So just how did they preserve the body so that people could come, take a look, and pay their last respects and everything? So if you read the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and I highly recommend it, they're both brilliant reads, you'll see that ancient Indians were very familiar with the art of preserving bodies. They did this by placing them in a vat of oil. So in the Ramayana, when King Dasrath dies, his son Bharat is away. But then Bharat comes back. And because Dasrath's body has been placed in oil, Bharat is able to pay his last respects to his father. The same thing happened to the Buddha. So the Buddha died around the age of 80 years old. As he was approaching his deathbed, his disciple Ananda asked him, hey Buddha, what do you want us to do with your body? And the Buddha said, I want to be treated like a Chakravartin. A Chakravartin means a warrior. But the Buddha wasn't saying he was like Rambo going to Afghanistan and throwing bombs and shit on people. He was a warrior of dharma, of the path of good conduct, of the path of peace. And he wanted to be treated just like one would treat a famous king or a warrior. So, what the Buddha wanted was for his body to be wrapped 500 times in pieced cotton and a cloth to be wrapped around that, and for that to be placed in oil, and then people could pay their respects. And then he wanted the body to be placed in a stupa or a holy Buddhist site. Now, this brings us to another way that ancient bodies were treated in India. They were placed in stupas or holy sites so people could come and pay their respects. But in the Mahaparinirvana, that ancient Buddhist holy text, it says that the Buddha was cremated after he was placed in oil. Now, this quite doesn't make sense because imagine if you place something in oil for a long time and you put it in a fire, what will happen? The French scholar André Baruch says that this would be like frying fish in oil. And another modern crematorium director agrees. He said, well, if you were to do that to the body of the Buddha, there would be an explosion of mass, bones, and fragments. You know, what I like to call cooking. So it's highly unlikely that the Buddha was cremated. What probably happened was that they divided his body into 8 parts and they buried each of the 8 parts in 8 different stupas all over northern India so people could come and pay their respects. Later, the Emperor Ashoka came down and he chopped the body up even further. It's rumored that he did as many as 84,000 parts. And today, that's why you can find relics of the Buddha in all the countries where Buddhism is popping up. For example, the Tooth Temple in Kandy has his tooth, and the Tongbasa Temple in Korea has bones and fragments. So as you can see, today, bodies of the Hindus are mainly cremated after they die. But that wasn't always the case. In the olden days, people meditated to limit their creator. They were force meditated to limit their creator. They were dunked in oil. Their bodies were chopped up and they were placed in stupas, all tremendously exciting ways to leave the planet. India has a long culture of people going deep within themselves and trying to understand how to live in this world. But it also has a culture of examining what is the best way of leaving this world. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please consider subscribing for the channel so that we might meet again. I hope you have a lovely 7 days and enjoy the week that lies ahead. Bye.